Productive Dentist Academy Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Everyday Practices Dental Podcast. I'm Regan Robertson, and my co-host, Dr. Chad Johnson, Dr. Maggie Augustyn, and I are on a mission to share the stories of everyday dentists who generate extraordinary results using practical, proven methods you can take into your own dental practice. If you are ready to reclaim your time so you can focus on great patient care without sacrificing yourself along the way, buckle up and listen in.
Money is a reflection of our subconscious patterns. What we believe we're worthy of, what we fear, and what we've been conditioned to expect. And so it's such a beautiful deep dive into some of our subconscious programming that's either helping us or harming us, depending on what you've experienced so far in your life. So let's say, for example, when you're growing up, and this is like my example, money doesn't grow on trees, rich people are bad, you have to work really, really hard to get anywhere. Those were like some of my narratives, some of the things that I was taught to believe. So growing up that way, I'm like, okay, I've got to work really hard. I've got to hustle, I've got to grind. This is really important. I was afraid of not having a lot of it. And so that will lead you subconsciously to places that you might not consciously choose. We know that money without family, connection, joy, passion, without all these things isn't the answer to our happiness. We know this. But some people will push towards it because subconsciously they believe the more money they have, the more valuable they are. And so whatever your money story is, it's so important to uncover that because subconsciously it's leading you somewhere. And money, like a knife or a hammer in the hands, a knife in the hands of a murderer, kill someone. Wow. A knife in the hands of a loving mom makes dinner. And so it's such a different way of looking at it. But many people, especially kind of in our society, will have levels of shame and fear and almost like a taboo around it. And it's not necessary because as soon as your treatment coordinator can up-level their money mindset and feel more confident talking about it, then they're not bringing their own shame to the conversation. They're not bringing their own fear, their own scarcity. They just know that this is a transaction.
Welcome to Everyday Practices Dental Podcast with my amazing hosts, Regan Robertson and Dr. Chad Johnson. And today, on a very special Friday, we have this incredible guest, our very, very good friend, Allison Lacoursiere, who is this incredible powerhouse. She has a very special place in my heart, and she has a very special place in many people's hearts. She's stepping into this beautiful reality of redefining herself. And so it is an honor to have her on this podcast, but she redefines reality for a lot of people. And the last time her and I spoke, she really opened up my eyes to seeing something very differently. And today's subject is going to be money, the way that we look at money. So hi, Chad. Hi, Regan. And Allison.
Hello.
Welcome, Allison. We are so excited. I can't remember the last time I saw you in person. I remember memorable times, though, where I have seen you in person, and your soul just radiates optimism and hope and light. And throughout your career evolution in dentistry, you carried that through. Like that is just intuitive to your soul. And so to apply that to money, which can cause a lot of fear and tension and scarcity and all that good stuff, I think it's going to be a great conversation today.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here. And similar feelings to all of you. All of you bring so much joy to me, and just the positive energy, the optimism, the joy, the fun that I have with all three of you is just astounding. So it's going to be a good day.
Allison, was it last year, the Dentist Money Summit? Were you there?
I wasn't. I was at the PDA.
Yeah, we had
conference
somebody else each other at the PDA.
Was it that? And just one other thing. Were you at the IntelliCon conference last year?
Mm-mm.
Okay, I was trying to remember where I talked with you last in person. So I somehow I remember it was in a large conference room, but it can be anywhere.
At the 20th anniversary PDA.
That's it.
All the
Yes.
cheerleaders, Chad.
So you're saying that Allison attends high caliber, very
Darn right.
exclusive, awesome events? Is that
Out of all the places that you've probably been, I can't keep track of it all. So yeah.
That was the best one. That was the best one. The 20th anniversary was the best one.
Yeah,
It was a good
that was
time.
a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, because there's disagreement, and I love this because within this crowd, we're definitely going to have some really exciting discussion about money. And so when Allison and I were talking, this idea of money and what it means and how we look at money came up because I look at money. I have an attachment to money, and the way that I look at money is negative. I assign money, I don't know, a judgment. I look at money as bad. Okay. And I'm going to tell you a story to get us started. So, and I'm trying to break that attachment because after my conversation with Allison, what Allison opened up my eyes to is money is neither good or bad. It is you that is assigning something to money, and you need to remove yourself from that, and then money is going to flow into your life an entirely different way, right? And so I'll give you this idea. So we started seeing a patient in our practice that is the wealthiest person that lives in our town in Elmhurst. And I think they live in like a $5 million house. Now, the average new build in this town is still pretty steep. It's like $1.7 million, but they still live in this like house that is like 3 times more than that. Okay. So this woman comes in and she is 34 years old. Okay, she lives in this house, and I generally think of wealthy people as, I don't know, like not good people. I grew up very poor. Okay, and I generally think that people that have that much money have probably made their money in some sort of an unethical way, and therefore they must be not very good people. Okay, they are high maintenance. They have unreasonable expectations. Like these are the kinds of colors that come up when I start to deal with these people. And I don't like to treat people that have that much money. I really don't. Those are not the patients that I seek. So this
Does it even make you nervous?
It doesn't make me nervous because I refuse to do it. Right? So, so nonetheless, she sits down, right? And she's got a whole bunch of new cavities and I tell her that, and she starts to cry, and I am there for her every step of the way. And I spent like an hour talking to her. Like, this is not your fault. You grew up in a different country. And I'm very, very compassionate with her. And she is so nice. So nice. Like, I'm like, God clearly gave her the nice gene, and I am lacking it because I am short with people very often. Like, I am really to the point. I'm like, wow, what would it be like to be that nice? And I tell her that. I'm like, you are such a nice person. Like it's, she's got these 2 young kids and just very, very nice. I'm just in awe. And I leave and I tell everybody in the office, holy cow, you guys, this woman is so nice. So she's married to someone my age who's about 50. She's his second wife, whatever, if you want to know all that drama, right?
I do.
I knew. I figured. So she comes in and she needs all this work. She needs a bunch of onlays. And of course, the other thing is she has insurance and she will only go in network, okay? Because she needs to use her insurance benefits, right? Because her dentist stopped taking the insurance. So she needs to go to somebody in network, and I am in network.
Makes you feel great, doesn't it?
Yeah, right. Like I don't know, like her ring is probably it costs as much as my house. I've never seen anything that big in my life. So we do a crown, okay? So she comes in for the appointment half an hour late, and she says, I think my dentist did this crown last year. Right? She says that to me at the appointment. I need to call them right now and find out. And I said, look, I have a doctor's visit with my daughter in an hour. So I only have an hour, just full disclosure. So if you're going to be on the phone for half an hour, that might kind of get in the way. She's like, oh, don't worry about it. We'll get it done real fast. Okay. So she's on the phone for half an hour with her dentist. She's like, can you still do it? And I said, I can do it, but I won't mill the crown today for you. Okay. Because I need to leave in half an hour, but I can get everything done. So we do that, and she's in a temp. The next day she calls in and she says, I can't believe she couldn't mill the permanent crown. My old dentist always made the crown for me. Okay. Move on. But she couldn't come in the next day because she had 3 parties to plan. And then finally, a week later, she comes in, and I cement the crown, and the worst thing in the world that could ever happen happens. And there's some cement that gets stuck in approximately, and I'm having a really hard time getting it out. Okay. And so she can't wait for me to get it out. And so I'm doing the best that I can, but I can't get it out. I just need more time. But she has 20 people coming over to her house. She throws this insane fit. And she is so unkind and cruel to every assistant that walks into the room. She makes them feel like garbage. I put an interproximal wedge in there to kind of spread the teeth so that I can go in there, and I set a timer for 5 minutes. And she's calling the assistants, and she's like, the doctor needs to come in right now. And so I go in, and she's like, I don't know what to do now, but I've had it with you. I am just so unhappy. You have not made me happy over the last 2 visits. First of all, you claim that you're doing crowns on the same day, and then you don't. And now I have this in my teeth, and I'm going to Italy, and I don't even want to go. And we have a chartered plane, and I have a 2-year-old, and there's no one there to help me. And now I have this thing between my teeth, and it's this cement, and it's just not a part of my body, and you can't take it out, and I don't want you to touch me. And I have 20 people coming over to my house in 20 minutes, and I just don't know what to do. So she went from being this really kind, gentle human to being this witch, right? How much does money have to do with that? That's my story.
Well, I would ask, probably the first question would be, have we dealt with patients who have also been demanding, or also been cruel, or also been difficult, or also been unkind, who have had less money, more money, same money?
Yes.
Yeah. So the way that I see this is that money isn't emotional. It doesn't necessarily hold emotion. It, like I said last time, it's neutral, and it's a tool. So many people who have money are incredible. They're generous. They donate. They give back. They, serve the world in massive, massive ways. And then there's other people who are like your patient. And I don't know that money is the thing that would cause somebody to be that way. I think it might just be, a coincidence, or just a byproduct of somebody who's already just feels entitled, who feels their own kind of level of scarcity. Because again, that scarcity of kindness, that scarcity of love, that scarcity of patience, even though she may not have a scarcity of money. So I don't know if they're correlated.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because, Maggie, in your story, looking at it from an energetic standpoint, I do think that people can be, to Allison, to your point, whether they have a lot of money or they don't have any money, like their energetic state is gonna be impacted by external and internal factors going on in any given moment. I mean, I'm known as being a super bubbly person for the most part, and people say, oh, even when she's mad, she's not really mad. But there was a time just a few weeks ago when I was having trouble checking out of a grocery store. I had my card, like the chip wasn't working, and I was late to my son's, like I was going to be late to my son's recital. I thought I was being fine, and I didn't think I was being rude at all. I was just trying to help this cashier with like maybe a different card or a different option. And she says to me, like, I'm smiling, and she says, if you would just stop talking, I could help you. And I remember thinking, I'm the bad one here. Like, uh-oh. And I only bring that up because money was a factor, like speed was a factor, but all of the emotions that sit around it. So as much as I would like to say it was just my son's recital and I knew I had 3 other cards, like I would be sure to pay out, there's probably something there around money. It's a sensitive topic. So Allison, my question for you is, how did you get into even helping people coach through money and the value of money, the energy of money, and all of that? Like, I'm highly curious what started that journey for you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It was very organic from first and foremost being a treatment coordinator. You sit in the room with people talking about money all the time. And I remember talking to patients about all on 4 cases where, it's a large fee. And it was interesting to me to see like the different ways people were responding. Some of them were very abundance mindset and they're like, let's go. I'm going to pay this in cash. This is something that I desire. I want this. And then other people were very like fearful, somewhat ashamed. And so I started getting really curious about that. But then the real moment where I'm like, I have the opportunity to figure this out was when I started my own business. And I started to recognize that money is an energy and it's also a mirror for our own lives, for our own history, for our own childhood, for our experiences. And it's also a story for all of us. And so when I learned some of the ways for myself as an entrepreneur to get better personally with the story that I have around money, like it's neutral, it's a tool, it's infinite. Just because I have more money doesn't mean that Maggie has less. Just because Chad has more money doesn't mean that I have less. It's infinite and that it gets to be leveraged for really powerful things. I was able to reduce my shame around it, reduce my fear around it, and reduce my scarcity when I kind of recognized what it was. And that was so deeply impactful for me that I recognized so many of the other doctors, entrepreneurs that I was coaching, treatment coordinators that I was coaching, their results were so often based on their own mindset around money. So if we have a TC that goes in to present a $6,000 case with an Invisalign or clear aligners, how they feel about that is going to influence the result of whether or not that patient says yes or no. And so this became something like imperative to me to kind of like heal my own money wounds and also recognize that my results in my business and my life were going to be in many ways determined by how I felt about this tool. So it was very organic, but now for me, something that has been super, super helpful is that it helps me not step into scarcity, because scarcity is one of those things that I think causes us to feel or be or show up in a way that really isn't that powerful. So Regan, like when you were going through that, you had a scarcity of time, and the scarcity of time and scarcity of money are very often related. But the way we show up, if we have a scarcity of money, we're not very nice to people. We're not very kind to others. We're not very generous. Where everything's kind of like grippy. If we are abundant with money, we're generous, we're more caring, we're more giving. Same thing with abundance and scarcity of time. So, and as you said, want to say,
you just mentioned, I want to go back 2 steps. You mentioned money wounds. And so the underdriving why, because I really thought about this. You guys know I thought about this interaction. And I actually thought I should take her something. Like, should I take her flowers later? And just did I ruin her day? I had an event when I was much younger. I think I was in my 20s where I didn't have money in my account. And I was at a grocery store with a huge thing of groceries and my card would not go through. And that was so embarrassing for me. The checker, she handled it so gracefully. I remember how kind she was. They kept my groceries. I was able to go get cash and like figure it out. But I remember how embarrassing that was. So even if consciously it was time that I was putting it on, you have to know, right? It has to be a money wound. There was something subconscious that everybody's line was backed up. That was the other thing. So everybody was busy. There were lots of people behind me. And I just really feel, even though it wasn't conscious, there had to be that, like that moment.
embarrassment
That probably added edge to what I was saying without even realizing it. So tell me about money wounds. Like, how do you walk people through identifying those?
Okay, so Maggie had a couple of them when she was telling her story, and she's like, aware of them. But the question that I ask people is what was your first memory of money? Like, what did people say about money when you were growing up?
For me, I had I don't know about the very first time, but I had a really traumatic event because my parents were in Alaska and the real estate market crashed, and they had multiple homes that they were renting and they could no longer rent them for what the mortgage payment was. So my very first interaction was, we're selling, we're walking away from all of this real estate and we're going to move down to Washington. And it was, so it was very, I would say, definitely scarcity mindset, but my parents are so optimistic that, it doesn't matter. And my dad has always said, you will be provided for, even if it looks like you moaned. And he still says that today, which kind of paired with my focus on a mission and you will be provided for mindset. So maybe that offsets that one, but it was scary. When you're a little girl, it's really scary. Yeah. So that was kind of like maybe the most memorable first interaction with money that I remember.
Yeah, which could potentially bring forward shame, fear, scarcity, lack. What about you, Maggie or Chad?
It was complicated. We lived under communism where the value of money could change on a day, where, 100 zloty could be worth 10 zloty the next day. But I remember, like moving to America, the day that we landed in America, my dad took us to Burger King, and my dad bought every single one of us a Whopper. And my mom, I thought she was going to kill him because he bought every single one of us a Whopper and we didn't have the money. And that argument probably went on for a year. And I have not had a Whopper since.
Oh,
Really?
Yeah. I don't know what a Whopper tastes like anymore since 1990 because we didn't have the money. And my mom, like, how could you have spent so much money on 4 Whoppers when the girls could have split a Whopper and we could have split a Whopper? So, like, I mean, we really grew up very poor.
Yeah. So probably in that scenario, money causes fights. There's not enough to go around, like that. Those beliefs from very young probably came forward for you. Yeah. How about for you, Chad?
There are two. One in particular, about 5 years old. I had ridden my bike or walked down 3 blocks or so to the gas station, and I wanted to buy a piece of candy. And I had so much change or whatever, and I bought I walked up to buy this piece of candy, but I was like 12 cents short. And this guy was like, I was short, Regan, like you. And this guy was like, oh, here, I'll cover for it. And I think you put down an extra 9 cents or something for it. And I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. It was so cool that, like, this guy, I mean, he's my savior at that point, like swooping in to help me out with this. And I was just like, man, to be rich like this guy, just to drop. The
To
other
drop
one,
9 cents. I love that.
I
That's
know.
like the best memory.
I know, right? Like I was enthralled because I mean, a 4 or 5 year old, they want the candy, right? And I didn't have the money for it. And then, for him to he didn't know me and he just offered it. And I was like, what is this? The other thing was, I remember, my mom worked at the hospital. She was a nurse there, and she had I'd go to the child care center there and at the hospital, and they had a pool, and you were supposed to pay, I think it was something like $20 a month or something like that, and for the preschoolers to be able to swim. And we didn't have enough money for that, and so I just we'd have to sit on the side. So there were like 2 of us out of the whole class that didn't have enough money, so we would sit on the sidelines and just watch the kids swim. And I remember my mom, being like, well, surely there are other kids. And I said, well, there's one other kid. And she was like, you're telling me that, because it made it sound like I was laying it on thick. She was just like, like, you're telling me that you're the only kid, and I was like, no, there's one other kid. But I just know that we didn't have enough money for it. And then I could tell that she kind of felt bad that, like, I was missing out on an opportunity because we didn't have enough money and stuff like that. But I kind of didn't care too, because it was just matter of fact. It was just like, I mean, if you don't have the money for it, what do you do? Right. So
Mhm.
those are a couple of early memories, which were kind of, fun memories. It's not like they were scarring, but they're imprinted there. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
I,
totally.
oh, Allison, I have never, ever, ever in my life met somebody that could get people down to a third level of why through the lens of money. This blows my mind. By the way, listeners, you're getting like a coaching session. It actually,
You know,
yeah.
think about doing this for yourself. Think back to your own first memory of money and think about how that has shaped your view of money. I mean, I just did a quick, chat GPT thing, and money as good. It could provide you freedom and security, opportunities, and be used generously as a symbol of success, but bad the way that I understand it or look at it. It could mean greed, corruption. It could be a symbol of inequality, materialism, stress, and conflict, right? And so
Yeah.
I want to know so much more. I want to know about the mirror part now. I mean, and then even, I mean, I remember when I started working with PDA, one of the things that we learned is for the treatment plan coordinators, they feel comfortable presenting treatment plan amounts that are equal to how much money they have in their savings account.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That blew my mind, because as
Yeah.
the practitioner in this practice, you can't just go from presenting single tooth dentistry to comprehensive dentistry without additional training for your treatment plan coordinators, because they will not appear confident. They'll stumble over their words. They won't know what to do with themselves.
So
From,
true.
hey, this is going to be $200 to this is going to be $20,000.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. So really, like, money is a reflection of our subconscious patterns, what we believe we're worthy of, what we fear, and what we've been conditioned to expect. And so it's such a beautiful deep dive into some of our subconscious programming that's either helping us or harming us, depending on what you've experienced so far in your life. So let's say, for example, when you're growing up, and this is like my example, money doesn't grow on trees, rich people are bad. You have to work really, really hard to get anywhere. Those were like some of my like narratives, some of the things that I was taught to believe. And so the other thing I was taught was like, you need to have money to be respected. So growing up that way, I'm like, okay, I've got to work really hard. Like I've got to hustle, I've got to grind. This is really important. Um, I was afraid of not having a lot of it. And so that will lead you subconsciously to places that you might not consciously choose. So if you grow up with the belief that money equals value and respect, you're going to really work hard for that and not really understand consciously why. And we know that money without family, connection, joy, passion, without all these things isn't the answer to our happiness. We know this. But some people will push towards it because subconsciously they believe the more money they have, the more valuable they are. And so, whatever your money story is, it's so important to uncover that, because subconsciously it's leading you somewhere. And money, like a knife or a hammer a knife in the hands of a murderer, kills someone.
Yeah.
A knife in the hands of a loving mom makes dinner. And so it's such a different way of looking at it. But many people, especially kind of in our society, will have levels of shame and fear and almost like a taboo around it. And it's not necessary, because as soon as your treatment coordinator can up-level their money mindset and feel more confident talking about it, then they're not bringing their own shame to the conversation. They're not bringing their own fear, their own scarcity. They just know that this is a transaction. I know my doctor's going to help you, and this is what it's going to look like for you to be able to get this treatment done. And it's neutral.
Allison, I'm super curious in how you do this, because I feel in having us all explain our stories, which was really powerful in and of itself. For me, I think it's almost like Schrodinger's cat, like quantum physics. Like I don't actually look at money. I look at the mission or what I want to do. And I, a few years ago, met a brilliant financial advisor who played the mission game, the why game with me. And it completely flipped me on how I save, how I think. But he understood, he seemed to get that I was mission oriented. So he had me paint my life 10, 15, 20 years down the line. And then he's like, so we will align your goals to fulfill the mission. And all of a sudden I was able, it's just like it burst open. Like all that the highway was cleared. When you are helping treatment coordinators, get away from their limiting beliefs or the beliefs that they were, brought up with, how do you start? I mean, for me, it felt easy because it was mission and why, like I get that, but let's take Maggie. Like Maggie's is like, that's deep stuff. Like that is deep ingrained. How do you even start?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, and when it comes to doctors, clinicians, practice owners, like this is a beautiful place to start because so often our doctors' mindset will infuse into the team as well. So if like doctors have a scarcity feeling towards money or shame around money, or like we don't talk about that, that's how the team's going to also feel in some capacity or another. And so if with Maggie, like for you, it's really deciding for yourself, first and foremost, pulling out like what money story did you have? And then deciding what money story do you want? And how is it right now impacting some of the decisions, the actions or the inactions that you're having in your life? But what is the result that you actually want? And so that's the first step. It's like really deciding like, what is it that I actually want? And then choosing new beliefs around money that will actually get you there. Because a belief is just a thought that we think again and again. And Maggie, I know, in many ways, your story, you've chosen different thoughts about many other things in your life. So this is just the exact same thing. Money often can be more painful or it can be deeper embedded, but first things first, just get aware to it and then choose, how do I really want to feel about this? How do I really want to expand into this? And what do I really desire for the outcome of my life? And then choose beliefs based on that. So for example, one of the things that we talked about in the past was that I have to work really, really hard to get money. And so I don't really want more of it because it means more hard work. But how true really is that? Like, is that a capital T truth where it's like gravity, or is that a lower T truth? Because there are many avenues to make money that don't require time. And so when you decide money is not a direct exchange of my time, or money doesn't always have to be, then you can start figuring out different ways to earn more, to save more, to invest more, or to bring in more that don't necessarily require that time. But it first comes down to the beliefs that you have.
Chad, jump in here.
Um,
Because you and I have we've had a lot of conversations like
about the hustle.
about the hustle. Yeah. About like, I don't like it when you say I need to work every waking moment to make money. And I want to say to you, quit it. The truth is the less you work, the more you make.
Sure.
And my partner's the same way. He's like, Maggie, I need you in the office 5 days a week because I need you to make money. And my answer is, no, if I work 3 days a week, I'll make far more money. Right? Because I've seen that happen. But Chad's current state, and I'm sure he's loving it that I'm just putting all of this about him out there without asking him ahead of time, right? Is like, no, I have to be everywhere all the time. And if I need to work 7 days a week to make this money, then I will.
Yeah. So I've seen it work before when I've brought my hours available into scarcity. Because it's funny, I find that there needs to be, this is really deep, but like I feel like a lot of times it's easy to romanticize about abundance, but there's also something practical to be said about scarcity, and I think both need to be thought through. I don't think that it has to be, if you are in an abundance mindset,
it's not as simple as an abundance mindset is what you're saying.
Say it again.
It's not as simple as just having an abundance mindset.
Correct.
Right? Like sometimes it feels like it's hogwash.
And that they're not mutually exclusive. So like when someone says, well, I just believe in abundance. It's like, yeah, but like that doesn't mean that you disagree with scarcity, because if you are in abundance and you have provided for your family and you want to hang out with them, and someone then, like all your fans, if you have a million fans and they say, if I could just have 1 minute with you, and we just said, well, I believe in abundance, so I'll give you 3 minutes. Each of you get 3 minutes a week. And it's
But
like,
it's abundance of what?
That's it.
That's it.
And so
Yeah.
in order to be abundant with something, you have to be scarce with other things.
Yes.
If you want to be abundant with your family, you have to be scarce with strangers. If you want to be abundant with strangers, you're going to be scarce with your family. And so there's an interplay between them. And Maggie, you're right. So like I've had a rough last year, and when you have enough supply and so these starts to be, like economics kind of things. If you have enough demand, then you can limit your supply and control the flow. Just as much as if, there was water flowing through a hose, you could press on the end and get, like a stream running out where you could take a drink, or press on it and water the flowers, like you can spray it different ways. But what if there's no water coming out of the hose? You better start digging a well. And, so like it implies when you're talking about, like, hey, just, stick to working, 4 days a week. There was a point where I was just working, I was doing 7 to noon, and that was 4 days a week, but that's what I was working. And it was working wonderfully when I had enough supply. Right now, I don't have enough supply of people saying, yeah, I want to do treatment. And so therefore I've got to basically go look for treatment elsewhere, meaning, like I've picked up some jobs elsewhere. I've gone into Maggie's office. I have a buddy up in North Dakota actually that I've gone up to. And then once a month I go like a couple hours out of town and work out there, because I'm just looking for places where I can do the procedures that I can get paid well doing. Rather than just, saying, well, I could find something up the street and do fillings. It's just like anyone can do those, but I've got a skill set and I need to hunt and find places for that. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah. I mean,
And I like that.
yeah. Okay. So I would love to just to look at the energy of abundance versus scarcity. So like scarcity feels like urgency, control, burnout, overgiving, under receiving, like that, like constriction feeling. So you could be in two different situations. One is like, I would really like to have more of the procedures that I want to do in my life. I'm going to think from either scarcity mindset or abundance mindset. Abundance mindset is calm, decisive, it's generous, it's spacious, it's trusting in yourself, it's being able to hold more and have more. So from a decision of, I want to bring more money in the way that I want to do it, was you operating from an abundance mindset of, I want to do the procedures that I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Scarcity, Chad, would be like, let me just book any day, anytime, any patient, go up the street. Like I need to get it in. And so often we don't make the best decisions when we're coming from that scarcity mindset. And so there's tactful, like scarcity of money. Like I have $100 or I have $0, but there's also, which I think is probably the most important thing, is energy of scarcity, energy of abundance. And I will say, like, as a consultant and a coach, I'd be really curious to hear all of your thoughts on this. I can walk into a practice and immediately I can tell if the practice owner has a scarcity or an abundance mindset almost immediately. And the abundance doesn't mean that they're like overpaying their team or, like making bad decisions in any way. It's just they have an abundance of, we're going to figure this out. We're going to have enough to go around. It's an abundance of care. It's an abundance of love. It's an abundance of generosity. And most of the time, those practices are doing better. They're doing well. When I come in and I see a practice owner has a lot of scarcity, often there's like strife with the team, like patients have issues, like they're kind of like in that grippy nature. And so that's where in decisions and in choices, we want to always operate from that abundance energy. And typically that abundance energy brings more abundance back to you because you're not operating from urgency. You're not burning out. You're not overgiving or not receiving what you deserve. I see this a lot with doctors, like undercharging, giving way too many discounts, like just kind of writing off their treatment. And that often is like scarcity of like lack of value of self. So again, like money gets to be this like, deeper meaning here. But that's where I would just encourage anybody to think like, am I thinking about this? Am I bringing an energy of scarcity or am I bringing an energy of abundance? And which one will serve me more?
Allison, do you coach on behaviors in order to make that shift occurring? Because sometimes the practices are under extreme financial pressure, or any business owner, for example. So if you are really stressed out and you have to make payroll, and you know that if you don't make a certain number, it's going to be really difficult to do. I can intimately feel how stressful it would be to try to stay in an abundant mindset, right? I think it'd be just really difficult to do. So I know that like for myself, I take away looking at the number and I instead focus on the behaviors. What is it that you do to help turn those practices around if they are sitting in scarcity and you can feel it right away?
Yeah, I mean, I would just love to ask you this question back, and then I'll give you my response. But if that person was looking at like, oh my gosh, like how am I going to make payroll, and I don't know how to do it, do you think that they would be more successful in figuring it out in a scarcity mindset or in an abundance mindset?
Oh, I think, well, of course, it's going to be an abundance mindset. I guess I see here, I think of abundance and scarcity as fear and hope, I guess. So, or good or like high energy or low energy. That's the best way to say it. Not even good or bad. High energy or low energy. More high attracts more high, more low attracts more low. So if I am in a really crunchy situation, I can't think of one specifically with money right now, but say I'm just really frustrated with a certain scenario going on. I will ask myself, this is my flip. I will say, how can I make this a high energy situation? So
Yes.
that means, what can I learn from this?
Yeah.
What is this teaching me? What opportunity might be existing that I don't see? And that works. It sucks at the time because I'm mad and I'm frustrated and I want to be anywhere else, but it's the only way I've been able to be successful in flipping my energy.
Yes. And what you're explaining is actually using a different part of your brain because you're able to take yourself from your limbic brain, your fear based brain, the brain that's telling you to like control, protect, run, fight, flee, that brain into your prefrontal cortex, which you have opportunity for co creation, creativity, collaboration, which from that brain, we solve problems faster. We solve problems more comprehensively. So scarcity is fear. And we move into a different part of our brain in which we are like, I'm going to fight, I'm going to run, I'm going to flee. And we actually are foggy. Like our brain is foggy in that state. And I think we've all been in that state in business and in life at some point. And we like can't make decisions. Like we're feeling burnt out. We're feeling really rough shape. We're not being the best leaders we could be. We're probably not getting a whole heck of a lot done. That's sitting in scarcity mindset. Switching and being able to recognize that and move into abundance mindset is, how do we solve this problem? What can we do? How many ways can we bring this money in? Who can we like connect with? That then will be able to solve that problem. So instead of looking at that situation as abundance versus scarcity, look at the energy in which you're coming to solve the problem with. And my clinicians that are able to recognize, oh my gosh, I'm scared, but I'm still going to be able to get myself into this hopeful, this grateful, this expansive part of my brain to actually solve this problem, they do it a whole lot faster. And they typically don't continue to spiral in that same direction. So there's a lot of neuroscience to the emotions that people are having and how they're showing up in their world. And so when I talk about behaviors, yes, 100%, we don't want to make choices and behaviors based on that scarcity because it's often a fear-based choice, which often doesn't result in a really good decision. So what we want to do is flip ourselves into that abundance mindset. It doesn't mean like everything's great and I have money coming up down trees. That's not it. It's still like very tactical, very real. But how many ways can I solve this problem and I'm safe while I'm doing it? Like reminding yourself that I'm safe. And those decisions are often way better and yield way better results, and people get themselves out of those situations much faster. So the decisions and the behavior always stems from what we think creates how we feel, which creates what we do. And often people are like trying to change what they're doing without understanding how they're feeling and what they're thinking about it. So we have to kind of go back to go forward, if that makes sense.
Oh, I think it's beautiful. It really highlights inner work. And I mean, you've really, I can see in a heartbeat what it would feel like to go into an office and kind of uncover the bee's nest and see how deep it really goes, because there is a lot of inner work, and that just changing behavior alone takes a lot of effort. And I think there's a lot of bravery in that, to tackle that and say, I'm going to work on getting out of fight or flight, because if you've been under a stressful situation for a long time, or like in Maggie's case, like growing up in a really traumatic environment, in the country, let alone just in the inner dynamics that are in the family itself, it's a lot of work that has to go into it, but you must fight for yourself. I mean, you are the hero of your story. And so I think what's really fascinating is I don't think about money as a victim mindset or a hero's mindset, but it really, you choose it just like you choose everything else in your life.
Mm-hmm.
But listen, like I mean, we're pretty open people, right? But there's got to be times where you are entering an office. Let's say somebody hires you and you're entering a scarcity mindset office, or you meet a clinician and you discover this. This cannot be an easy conversation to have. I mean, you're talking about drilling down into preconceived notions of what may or may not have happened in somebody's past, right? Digging that out. You're talking about connecting the reptilian brain to the heart, back to the current mind. And then you're asking someone to continue working with the past and the present, and then going back and forth, and then possibly sharing some of that with the team, and then working and then having the team work on that. And I'm sharing some of that because this is a dynamic that I'm still working with in our office. My partner is actually comes from a very abundant mentality about money. He's like, it'll take care of itself. Don't worry about it. Like he doesn't, like we have not had a great year. We're 15% down. And if you would consider that there would have been growth, we could be 25% down. And he's like, don't worry about it. It'll even itself out. While I'm like, and you could tell why, right? Like while I'm like, I'm scared, but I'm I'm changing, right? So I'm trying to just surrender and let go and be generous and all of those things. But there's things that, he's very protective and very private, never, and it's taken us years to even share numbers with our team, because he's like, no, this is private. This is ours. Nobody needs to know that.
Mm-hmm.
So these conversations and breaking it down, really in an effort for growth, for both the practice and the practitioner, how how challenging does that get?
I mean, it's very timely. So really, like, let's say we were working together, Maggie, I would just be like, what is it that you desire? And let's dream for a minute. Let's brainstorm, let's get clear. And we get clear on like, what is that you want in your life, in your practice? How do you want to feel? What is it like? What does day-to-day look like for you? That's really, really fun, really expansive, really powerful. Like, what is it that you want? And then we create the identity of the person who has that. What are they thinking? What are they feeling? And then how do they operate because of that? And it becomes this kind of pathway to a new normal based on simply what this doctor wants. So
Well, what if I tell you I want more money? I want to be this person that is like my partner, where I don't worry about money. And then you tell me, well, this is how we get there. And I'm like, no, we're not doing that.
Well, I mean, as a coach, I never am going to tell you how we're going to get there. I'm going to ask you questions on how you think we should get there based on like, okay, so let's just say that you want to be like your partner. What thoughts do you think you would have that would help you feel that way and do those things?
My brain is not working. I can't even begin to comprehend the question.
100%. And I mean, I know that this is like one of those things that we have to get super, super aware of our, like you just did, are your old money beliefs, and then choose new ones that make you feel differently. And typically we go through, a couple months of this kind of work in order to start to understand this. And we're doing it in like, 10 minutes on a podcast with 4 people talking. So it gets to be a little bit deeper than that, but it really is coming into like the identity. This is like identity work of like, what kind of thoughts would she think? How would she feel every day? Let's try those on. Let's test them out. See how they feel. And the moment you do that, you start to build new neural pathways that make it easier for you to do it again and again. So the first time we test it out, and you're like, this kind of feels good. It's not going to feel normal. And you're not going to revert to it as a habit. But over time and repetition, you will.
This pairs so beautifully with, I'm reading Atomic Habits right now. And believe it or not, I've never read it before. So be here. I know it's like the number one thing everybody should read. But I like you're giving grace. Like there's no way to just flip a switch and all of a sudden say, okay, I'm out of scarcity now and I'm going to, move my identity. I've had a session and how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? It takes time. And I think forgiving yourself and giving a lot of leeway and grace to commit to a 1% change, a little tiny shift in a repetitive environment so that you can make it consistent and turn it into a habit. I think that's how this ship can actually turn. I mean, for me, it has taken years. It's taken years. And one of the best pieces of advice I ever heard was I sat down. I was in therapy and I said, okay, I've got this. I laid it all out there. And she said, you know what? I think this is going to take a couple of years and we're going to attack it slowly, one bite at a time. And I didn't expect her to say that at all. I didn't expect her to give me time. But she also took all of this pressure off of me immediately. I suddenly felt like, oh, okay, well, we're going to slowly, this isn't something that I have to do drastic things. And for me, that worked really well. So, and if you're listening right now and thinking, okay, great, I just, heard an hour podcast. I don't know how I'm going to be able to change. For me anyway, it was really slow and over time. And before you know it, you're in the right mindset again. Not that I don't slip into scarcity a lot, because I still think I think I'll always battle that, I'm more cognizant of it now.
And it's normal. And it's part of our human experience is to have automatic negative thoughts or automatic scarcity thoughts. It's so normal. And it's something that we get to choose. Like we get to be at choice for it when we become aware of it. And so 100%, Regan, like this work takes time. But what I always love to say too, and I am obsessed with Atomic Habits, is that we're going to get to this time next year anyways. Like we're going to be here on June 27th, this time next year anyways. What we repeat, we create over this next year. And so a lot of times we look at like our habits of like workout, what are we doing for our savings? What are we doing for this and that? But like the question is like, what are we repeating for our thoughts over the course of next year? And even if you just take one new thought that's like, I've got this, or I'm a good person, or, I'm going to be more abundant mindset. Those thoughts over time will change you into a different person gradually, slowly. And I'm not saying a different person. It's just making that pathway a little bit more normal for you.
What really sucks is that we are out of time. And these podcasts could go on for another.
Oh, that's thinking scarcely.
Or abundance. I don't know.
There's my point. There's two sides to the same knife.
I want your takeaways, Chad and Regan, and then I'd like final thoughts from Allison.
I'll start. Abundance is more than money, though there's an element of it because it's telling of your whole being and your history, and that gets messy. And because it involves the psychology of it, and sociology, like it's just involving you and your past and more than just you. And then it involves other people too, because a lot of times money being in commerce is how you take care of your family and how you take care of your team and how you take care of your community. And so this is multifactorial, making it a very complex issue. And simply making abundance about positive thinking, though there's an element of that, it would be a misnomer. And I think those are Allison, my takeaways. Is there any correction or recalibration to that?
They're your takeaways.
Yeah.
No, I think what I'm asking is that's what I That's what I thought about. Is there anything where you're like, well, Chad, you weren't listening, or I'm getting better at trying to listen in the sense that I'll offer something up and then be like, maybe that's what was going on in my mind. Was I listening? And then you can say no or yes or kinda.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are beautiful takeaways, and I think you're right in this, is that it can be complex, and it can be an indication of our past, our feelings, our, programming, and it really gets to be, it's a reflection. It's just a reflection. So, I love your takeaways. I think you did a great job.
Yes.
Yes.
Allie, so
A+.
brilliant way to unlock somebody's third level of why through the lens of money. Absolutely riveting conversation. I know you're going to help a lot of people. And just as I assumed, which we never want to assume, you bring love and light to this topic just like you do everything. And I guess if I have one takeaway, I know myself when I am not afraid, if I feel like anything is possible, I perform my best, I am the most successful, and things do work out. And it is a challenge when times are tough to stay in that vibration, which is life. It is a challenge. It should be hard. And, at times. So that is the big game that we play. And success requires support. So I'm really grateful, Allison, that you are a guide for especially those times when it is hard and we can't go it alone. We're not designed to do it alone. So thank you for coming in and helping what no doubt will be thousands of people that impact millions of lives.
Thank you.
Closing thoughts, Allison.
Yeah, I would say within your own reflections on this, wherever you are, one of the most important things is you don't make yourself wrong for whatever money beliefs, whatever money energy you come up with. You're like, holy smokes, like, got some stuff back there. Don't make yourself wrong for it. That awareness is the first step towards changing it and towards having what you desire. Because so often we are run by our subconscious mind. When we bring that subconscious belief into our conscious, that's how we get to make different choices. So don't make yourself wrong for it. And then I would just say, get curious and see what happens when you come from life with an abundance mindset. Like Regan said, like, get curious. Like, is it true that you perform your best? Is it true that you're the kindest? Is it true that you have the most fun? I would put money on it that you would. And then I would also say, really allow yourself to release the emotion around money. It's not good or bad. It is a tool. And when we can use it as an empowered tool, that's how we start to set ourselves free from many of the ways that it can make us feel small or shameful or wrong or lack. And that, again, is one of the most, I think it's one of the kindest things we can do for ourselves, because it really does affect so many parts of our life.
Every time I talk to you, I just see you grow more and more, and I am always inspired by you. I feel so lucky to have stepped into this path where I get to run into you every now and again, and this is just one of these examples. And I'm sure you don't know this, which is why I'm going to tell you. Every now and again, I have these team meetings, and when I come from a place where I want to inspire someone on my team, I always tell them the story about not everything about who you are, but who you are now and how you started as a dental assistant. And they glow when I tell them about you, and they feel inspired and empowered. And that's how I see you. And I think anybody that you come into contact with, you just have this talent for for allowing the very best parts to come out of them, even if it takes a little bit of work for them to grow. But it's just so worth it. And so I really just want to honor you with this time and this podcast, and want to thank you for your time with us, and just give us a little bit of how people can get in touch with you. I know you're changing your branding a little bit, and you've changed your website, and just give us a few moments about how that's changed and how we can find you.
Oh, Maggie, thank you so much. It's always such a pleasure and an honor to be in your energy. You're just such a brilliant, brilliant human being. So thank you for all of you for having me on today. And if you want to reach out to me, you can find me at AllisonLacoursiere.com, which I know is a risk because it means that a lot of people need to learn how to spell my last name. So it is Allison, Lacoursiere.com. You can also find me on Instagram. And I do have a free 3-day challenge that helps people go from scarcity to abundance thinking. And it's just a really fun 3-day challenge. So happy for anybody to come in and take that. But thank you. Thank you all for having me here.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Everyday Practices Podcast. It would mean the world if you can help spread the word by sharing this episode with a fellow dentist and leave us a review on iTunes or Spotify. Do you have an extraordinary story you'd like to share or feedback on how we can make this podcast even more awesome? Drop us an email at podcast@productivedentist.com. And don't forget to check out our other podcasts from Productive Dentist Academy at productivedentist.com/podcasts. See you next week.